Under London. It's surprising what you find down under.
This inconspicuous door on a side street in London is an entrance to a hidden labyrinth beneath the city.
This place has been abandoned for decades. It's been home to many. It was a place of espionage, communication, and refuge. It's gone by many names, and it was designed to survive a nuclear attack. It was one of Britain's most important facilities, and yet almost no one knows it exists.
And there are 7 more spread across the city. The plan was to connect them, and together they can hold up to 64,000 people. A city underground. With its own water supply, air conditioning.
This place is so vast that it even has its own street name.
Basically to make the place livable in, like a citadel that was survivable for at least a month.
So why did London build this underground city and then abandon it? I've been given access and have spent multiple days exploring these.
Seeing what's been left behind. Now I want to show you what happened down here. Why it matters.
And if it'll ever be needed again.
It's a full moon over London. At exactly 11:02 p.m, German bombers launched their largest attack. Over the next 7 hours, more than 700 tons of explosives rained down. Fire rips through the city. More than 700 acres are destroyed, twice the area lost in the Great Fire of London. By dawn, 1,400 people are dead. For the past 8 months, bombs fell across the United Kingdom. More than 40,000 civilians are killed, thousands more injured. Cities, ports, and industrial hubs lie in ruins. London is hit hard, and it becomes clear the city needs a last line of defense. A place to retreat when all else fails. An underground citadel. In October 1940, the government decides to construct a network of shelters. According to these original documents, each shelter consists of 2 parallel tunnels, just over 16 feet in diameter and 1,400 feet long, built beneath existing tube stations where tunnels already run. And it's not just London, the plan expands to other major cities too. I'm standing inside the Chancery Lane shelter, 40 meters beneath Holborn. The central line is directly above me.
This entire complex. Whoa, this entire place is rattling. There are 8,000 square meters of passageway down here. We'll get to why this one is bigger and so important in a bit, but back in 1940, the plan is to turn it into a shelter for 8,000 people.
The idea was to join those together to form sort of like a north-south axis and an east-west axis across London.
Since September 7th, London has been bombed for 57 consecutive nights. Work needs to begin immediately. But there are huge problems, shortages of material and not enough manpower. Eventually on November 27th, construction starts. The government hopes to have the first shelter ready by summer.
Thick smoke hangs over the heart of Britain as a choking dawn reveals the terrors of the night.
Construction has fallen badly behind schedule, and as the Blitz begins to ease, the government starts to rethink this entire project. They cancel the deep-level shelter program, but decide the ones already underway should still be completed. By March 1942, this shelter is finally completed. 7 more open later that year. So it's now late 1942. London is still being bombed, just less frequently. People crowd into tube stations for safety, but they're overcrowded. Pressure is mounting on the government, but the cabinet is reluctant. They're concerned about maintenance costs and want to hold the shelters back for a time when things get worse. Eventually Stockwell, Clapham North and South and Belsize Park open to the public, but Clapham Common and Chancery Lane stay secret. These tunnels are about to be transformed into Citadel accommodation, an underground fortress built to survive even if London doesn't. Getting official access to film inside these tunnels is extremely rare, but flying a drone over London is basically impossible without dealing with a bunch of red tape. So that's where Storyblocks comes in. I've been using their footage for years to fill in shots that I couldn't get for myself. And in this video, you've already seen clips from their library, created by real artists. Honestly, I spent hours just sitting here browsing their catalog, pulling out cinematic moments that I'd never be able to film or that would just take me days to shoot. So it saves me time and makes my edits look way more dynamic. And the best part is, with one simple subscription, you get ultimate downloads. 4K video, music, sound effects, templates, everything you need with no extra fees. If you're working on something or you want to start making videos, just go to storyblocks.com/faultline or click the link in the description.
And by checking them out, you'll be supporting this channel and enabling us to make more videos like this. Okay, thank you, Storyblocks. Now let's dive deeper into these tunnels.
These doors are built to survive a nuclear attack. You'll find them at every main entrance. In January 1944, the decision is made. Chancery Lane will become a citadel, a hidden base for the government's most important and most secret departments.
This place was used for espionage.
Supposedly, Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, worked here, and this is what inspired Q Branch. But it wasn't just spies down here. The facility is packed with civil defense planners, engineers, military strategists, and early codebreakers. The shelter is adapted to meet all their needs. These blast doors are installed to seal off key sections from any attack above ground. They're not hardened against nuclear attacks yet. No one here knows what's about to come down the line.
You'll see signs that people were working and living down here. There's a first aid room, there's offices, there's kitchens and dining spaces, there's a bar.
More than 1,000 staff are stationed here, preparing for the worst.
There is hundreds of thousands of people walking above us that have no idea that this place existed.
By May 1944, the Citadel is fully operational. Staff are sworn to secrecy about their work here, and the army guards every entrance.
Hostilities will end at 1 minute after midnight tonight.
It was the end of nearly 6 years of war in Europe. London certainly had as much right as anywhere to celebrate victory.
Just 4 days after the war in Europe ends, the Home Office declares it no longer needs the site, and the deep level shelters are closed. The plan was to use this as a place that, could survive an attack, but it was never needed, and it became redundant. But the further I go, the more unusual these tunnels become. If you look at this land registry map, it's not like the others. This is a much bigger network, and it keeps expanding well beyond 1945. In the years that follow, it feels like peace has finally come to Europe for a time, but a new enemy is emerging. The British government uncovers a dangerous vulnerability in its own communications, and the threat of war has just gone nuclear.
So after the war, the Home Office does abandon this place. But it's now 1949, and the Soviet Union has literally just tested its first nuclear weapon. It's been 4 years since the harrowing scenes in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the US dropped the first atomic bombs. The threat of another nuclear attack is growing, and the Cold War has just begun.
If we falter in our leadership, we may endanger the peace of the world.
100 feet below the pavements of Ovenden is London's trunk telephoning.
This was taken over as a communications base.
And it's run by the post office, because in 1949 they were also in charge of telecoms. And if you've seen our video on London's other underground, you'll know that they're no strangers to building and operating networks below ground. Okay, so what are they doing this time, and why? Well, at this point there is a growing sense of vulnerability and anxiety. The UK needs to stay securely connected to its allies, especially the United States.
The thinking was, if there was a nuclear attack, government officials could come down here and make contact with the wider world.
So those telecoms needed to be secure, and it needed to be deep underground. Air raids took it out regularly. They need a way to secure the lines of communication, no matter what. So the post office starts expanding its critical communications infrastructure. And by the 1950s, Chancery Lane is retrofitted with a fortified 500-line trunk telephone exchange. Let me explain real quickly to anybody who is under 35 and have no idea about the words that I just said.
A telephone exchange is basically a switchboard. It connected one phone line to another and routed calls through the network. Imagine the phone system like a tree. Local exchanges were the branches, handling nearby calls. But to reach further, like London to Scotland, you needed a thicker connection between the branches. That's the trunk. This room is the trunk exchange. Every long-distance call passes through places like this. It was the backbone of Britain's communications network. At the time, the post office described it as so fundamentally important for a future war.
So if we go back to that land registry map, you can see that the 2 original tunnels are expanded. 4 new ones are excavated to the south, and the site connects to 12 miles of deep cable tunnels. Remember, this was first designed as a shelter, so it's stocked with 6 weeks worth of rations and fitted with an artisan well for fresh water. By October 30th, 1954, the exchange opens and is ready in the threat of a nuclear attack. That's the worst case scenario, but day to day, around 200 staff operated the tunnels 24/7. It becomes known as the Kingsway Telephone Exchange.
First, you'll have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready.
It's now 1956, and the Cold War paranoia is rising. Back in World War II, Britain and the US coordinated through telegram and radio. But now for the first time, a single cable stretches across the Atlantic, allowing them to speak directly and securely. The signal comes ashore in Scotland. To reach London, it passes through the Kingsway Trunk Exchange. And it's not just transatlantic calls.
The exchange contains all the equipment needed for the automatic routing of calls on 6,600 trunk lines between the capital and other centres throughout the British Isles, and carries almost 2 million a week.
But behind the scenes, this bunker is quietly handling some of the most sensitive calls between Western allies, and a new direct line to Moscow. Because in October 1962, something happened that changed everything.
Within the past week, unmistakable evidence has established the fact
you, the Soviet Union, has sent these weapons to Cuba.
For 13 days, the US and the Soviet Union stand on the edge of nuclear war. American planes have just spotted Soviet missiles in Cuba. One misstep could end everything. Official messages take up to 6 hours to get through. It's faster to connect via TV broadcasts than through government channels. In the end, diplomacy wins. The Soviets agree to pull their missiles from Cuba, the US agrees to remove their own from Turkey and Italy. But one thing becomes painfully clear: they need a better way to communicate. So the following year, they both signed the Hotline Agreement, an effort to prevent nuclear war by avoiding miscommunication. It creates a direct link between Washington and Moscow, and it's routed through here at Kingsway, continuing on its way to the Kremlin. It's seen as a triumph in Cold War engineering, designed to stop the worst from ever happening. I thought that was the end of the story. But walking around here, some spaces feel like they belong to a completely different facility. And from this point on, things get murky. Ownership changes hands, and its true purpose starts to get called into question.
That felt like a nuclear bunker, and now I feel like I'm in a 1960s office. Have you ever seen Severance? I've been walking around here for a while now, and there's just things that don't make sense. Like, look at this. It's an office, right? Wrong. Whoa. What was the purpose of this?
It's the early 1980s. Until now, telecoms have been run by the state, i.e. the post office, but Thatcher's government starts selling them off.
British Telecom is created and takes control of Kingsway, and for the first time in 42 years, these tunnels are in private hands. Looking at land registry data again, you can see how much BT inherited, including the 12 miles of deep-level cable tunnels. This is where they leave the exchange and sprawl out across London. After years of tension, the Cold War ends with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Around this time, large parts of Kingsway are mothballed. By 1995, only the main distribution frame is still in operation.
And eventually, as technology progressed, telephone communication in this way became redundant.
What's left today is the remnants of multiple eras. Kingsway was built to protect people. So it's strange to me that BT left it abandoned for nearly 30 years. Why didn't the government just hold on to it? So I started looking into it, and it turns out there is still one mystery hidden in these tunnels. This is Duncan Campbell, an investigative journalist. In 1976, he wrote this piece for Time Out, Britain's largest spy network, an electronic intelligence network. It was one of the first major stories to bring public attention to GCHQ. Before that, it had operated in total secrecy for 64 years, including for a short time down here. So he was a renowned reporter, and on July 26, 1985, he wrote a piece in the New Statesman that raised a new question. Who really owned this forgotten citadel?
The article was titled New Whitehall Bunker. In it, Campbell reveals the existence of a deep-level government command centre hidden beneath the Ministry of Defence in Whitehall and linked to 10 Downing Street. It's known as PINDAR. Built to coordinate military and civil response during the early stages of war or national crises. But he goes on to mention that there is a backup PINDAR site in Holborn called Kingsway and has now been dismantled, and ownership is believed to have been transferred from BT to the MOD. Other reports suggest it was these eastern tunnels that would have served as the backup site to PINDAR, but I haven't found any further reporting confirming that the Ministry of Defence ever took back parts of Kingsway. Once PINDAR was operational, there was no governmental need for this old wartime shelter, and BT felt the same and put it up for sale in 1996. But nobody wanted it, and it sat deserted for 26 years. In 2021, it was acquired by a private investment company, planning to turn it into an attraction someday. And the other 7 deep-level shelters, they're still out there too, along with who knows how many other hidden spaces that might sit beneath London. Since the fall of the USSR, the geopolitical status quo held firm, but in the past few years, we've seen it unravel. But Kingsway is a relic of the Cold War, and conflict and espionage don't happen the same way that they did in the 20th century. Now it happens here, online. This shift is what made it redundant. It's no longer equipped to defend against a lot of the threats we face today. So it'll sit quietly beneath these streets. People will pass by its entrances, unaware of its importance, and the millions of conversations that flowed through it. Some of them helped hold the world together. It was built to save lives, but it never had to. And maybe that's its greatest success. So it'll stay what it is, a forgotten citadel under London.